last 10 games of the NBA season is usually a time for teams to rest their players and get themselves ready for the playoff treacherous waters. But in the Eastern Conference, it's a little bit different this year, as count them, four teams are within a half game of each other for the top seed. Philadelphia, Miami, Boston, and Milwaukee are all vying for that top spot. What does that mean? That means home court advantage from a seed 1 and 2, at least until the conference finals. What that also could mean for seeds 1 and 2 is a matchup with the dangerous Brooklyn Nets, who now have Kyrie Irving back after the New York City mandate for non-vaccinated players and performers has been lifted. Now, the Brooklyn Nets make things really interesting considering they look to be resigned to be in the play-in tournament. If Toronto winds up sliding back down to 7, that means Kyrie Irving would be ineligible to play a road game in Canada because of its vaccination requirements. That does not change because of what happened in New York. But even still, the Brooklyn Nets are rounding into shape. Kevin Durant is healthy, Kyrie Irving is fresh, and maybe they start to figure some things out. But if you're a seed 1 or 2, do you want to avoid the Brooklyn Nets? Or do you wind up just playing it out, getting the best possible record, getting home court advantage, and putting yourself in the best possible position no matter who's around? The Miami Heat were holders of that top seed from the All-Star game until recently, when they started fighting with each other on the bench and losing more games. Now, most teams would say the Miami Heat are best equipped to handle infighting more than any other team, but they have real questions. Milwaukee are the defending champions, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is placing himself firmly in the MVP conversation along with Joel Embiid. But who trusts the Philadelphia 76ers? Nobody does here, especially with James Harden's history of underwhelming in the playoffs and the 76ers having blown a big lead in the second round last year against the Atlanta Hawks. They have a lot to prove. The Boston Celtics are what the Chicago Bulls were early in the season, having 2 scorers and a bunch of rabid defenders, being able to make up for everything else. They've been the hottest team in the Eastern Conference, and they are likely the one team, even including the Brooklyn Nets, that you don't want to face. Now, Chicago and Cleveland have taken a step back, but who wants to see DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine in a late game situation where teams usually only have one guy that can be a stopper? Either way it goes, you've got potential 50-win teams across the board and a bunch of shuffling that's going to bound to be intriguing as the season winds down. The question is, who's afraid of the Brooklyn Nets?